lot of you. There are definitely 3 people here. We are here to discuss mental health. I just have to have a serious moment at the beginning of this to say none of us are mental health experts. Everyone will be speaking from their own personal experience. If you would like to speak to mental health experts, Samaritans, Mind, Anxiety UK, just want to throw that out there because obviously we will be discussing a lot of quite serious topics and we're not entirely equipped to deal with that in a professional way. We want to make this feel like a safe, healthy space for everyone to be in. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, please feel free to leave, and everybody else in the audience, please be respectful. If somebody feels like they have to leave, maybe don't stare at them as they leave, because that's not going to help. And if you do need to leave, you can speak to one of our volunteers, or you can just leave, and you'll be welcome to come back in if you feel ready to. What else? Everyone here is going to be speaking from their own experience, and we're going to try to be careful about the way we speak, but obviously, when you're talking about your own personal experience, you can't necessarily moderate your language, so we just wanted to put that out there now. Yeah, and also if any of you guys feel uncomfortable, feel free to leave and we can
go and hide.
Yeah. So, yeah, serious stuff out of the way. I just wanted to start with everyone introducing themselves. So if you want to go down and introduce who you are.
Should we start from this end?
Yeah, why not?
Hello, I'm GaryC from the YouTubes. I have suffered from panic and anxiety and depression for about 8 years. This is very much like a therapy group. I've only just finished group therapy, actually. I've had therapy for 5-6 years, and I've been a volunteer and worked at Mind UK, the mental health charity, for 2 and a bit years. So I've had my fair share and experiences of different situations and conditions. Yeah, that's me, GaryC.
Nice. What kind of catchphrase there? Hi, well, first of all, hi. Trigger warning, me. My name is Tom.
That's it, I'm going now.
my name is Tom, and I suffer from severe depression, and that's an interesting experience. First of all, I want to quickly quantify by saying I deal with my issues by making jokes about them, so I'm sorry if anything I say comes off as painfully insensitive or tactless, but yeah, I'll try to rein it in. But yeah, no, I was about 10 years old when I kind of just got bullied by an authority figure so hardcore that I went a bit off, and I've kind of been in and out of therapy since then, but in 2012 I suffered a bereavement, and that put me on an interesting slope. And here I am now doing this. Yep, nailed it.
Good. Hello, I'm Rebecca. We're going to be showing a microphone, so this is going to be hilarious.
Awful.
Right. Well, hello. I have had depression, and I also have another condition called trichotillomania, which isn't quite mental health, but it brings on things like depression and anxiety, so it is indirectly related to mental health. But no, I do a lot of vlogging about whatever I can think of, but obviously depression has come into my life, so I've tried my best to talk about that to the best of my ability. So that sort of sums me up, I think, I hope. What? Go for it.
Cool. Hi, I'm Watt. Some of you might not know me because I do more on the gaming side. I work for NerdCubed. Insofar as my rundown list of interesting facts, I'm dyslexic, I am self-diagnosed autistic, and I have chronic depression to a rather severe level since puberty, and yeah, just trying to do anything with that has always been something that is what makes my input valuable, I suppose, hopefully.
Definitely.
So we want to start by talking about perceptions of mental health. So how do you think people view mental illness, and do you think there are any common misconceptions or assumptions people make in your experience? Very general question, so if anyone has any thoughts?
I mean, should we go down the line, or...?
Do whatever you want.
I think the biggest misconception is that all people who are mental, and everybody comes under the same umbrella. But obviously there are so many different conditions. I remember when I did my training at Mind, we had this exercise where everybody was sent off into groups of 4, and you had to list all the main sort of conditions. And most people only come up with two, which was depression and something else, something like schizophrenia. And when we came back and we got the full list, it's no wonder that so many people suffer from mental health issues in the UK and worldwide now. I don't know if it's sort of an offshoot of the way we live our lives now, or the pressures on modern living, the pressure to succeed and be something. Because I know personally that a lot of my anxiety comes from a fear of failure. So I think the biggest misconception is that everything is under one sort of umbrella, and the government doesn't kind of help with that either, because if you claim sort of disability benefit or income support that I do, you have to go for the same sort of test as someone that can't, like, bend over or climb up a stairs or something. So mental health and physical health are almost sandwiched together. And I think that's the biggest misconception, that it needs to be given its own sort of space.
Yeah, I think, mental health is so I should preface this by saying, like, I am the stereotypical, like, that worst 13-year-old boy ever, the one that plays Halo and says horrible things about everyone all the time. So one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the things I am now is because I do come from a place of such painful ignorance. And from there, I learned that, mental health is something that's quite hard to take seriously, because you can't, the diagnosis process, like, and just witnessing it is so difficult, because it's not like a broken leg or something. As of yet, it still really can't be so clearly diagnosed as, like, a doctor sticks you with something, goes, oh, yep, that's what you've got. So it is a lot of people don't quite take it seriously and appreciate it or understand it, and that just makes it quite hard, because it's hard to prove, I guess, is kind of the word. That's it really, is it's just so hard to kind of prove and express to people, and so many people come from just a place of ignorance, not necessarily malice, but just ignorance of not knowing the difference between things, like, say, being depressed and just being a bit sad, which does happen. And
yeah, I would like to carry on with that
leave me
point.
out in the middle.
Well, you can. Well,
No, it's all right, go figure.
you'll get your turn.
Particularly on the point of the difference between sort of sadness and depression, I think that one of the biggest problems we have is that we've become a culture where we exaggerate things for comic effect, and we all do it, and particularly as YouTubers. But then when you actually have a condition that is a bit more extreme, it's very hard to work out who's saying something and exaggerating it and who's saying it for real. So, for example, as I'm autistic, I don't associate music with movement or emotion. I don't have those things. So when people say, come on and dance, it's like, I can't dance. Like, for me, it's pretty patterns. Dancing to music is a bit like saying, hey, I'm doing this really complicated equation. Let's have a dance to it. It makes no sense to me. But then when I say I can't dance, everyone goes, oh, I can't dance either. It's like, no. You have taken the misconception that that's how it works. And I think that sometimes, if you have a bad day and go, oh, I'm really depressed, when you're not, that causes problems when depressed people do say that. But equally, I don't think there's an easy solution for it, because we're all comedians and we all know that making an extreme situation out of something is, the more extreme you make it, the funnier it is. We all know that no one here is literally Hitler, and I would be surprised if any of us haven't been called that at some point. And it's one of those ones where it's like, yes, going to extremes is funny, but it also really makes it hard to talk about these subjects. Over to you, Becca.
No, I didn't mean to be rude just then. I'm surrounded by these really strong men. It's a bit scary. Hello.
I'm really not that strong.
No, relating back to the original question with YouTube, I started YouTubing when I was 13, I'm 21, so literally the last 7-8 years of my life growing up is there, and it's there, practically there for everybody to see. So you can literally see me go from being this really bubbly 14-year-old with long, lovely hair to being a suicidal maniac with, like, bald head for about 3 years. It's pretty scary stuff, looking at all of this and the way that everybody else can see it as well. So from my perspective, I've gone from loads of people treating me as a real human being, people loving the things I'm creating, and then I had a period where I literally just, the lights went out. I was the most darkest person I've ever been in my life, and although there's been fantastic support and so many people have been there for me, I feel like thousands of people walked away and were extremely down-putting, and it took about 2-3 years to return from that. It's almost as though when you are depressed or when you have a really dark period with whatever condition you have, there is support there, but everyone seems to treat you like you're this weird thing, you're third class, and then anything that you say about your condition or about your life, you have this, oh, hello darkness, you have this, like, no one treats what you're saying as legit. So I'm finding that now I'm more of a happier person, I'm coming out the other side, people are treating me with more respect. So when I talk about depression, they're like, oh, cool, you're better now, you have a more understanding. I found that quite hard to deal with. Does that make sense? Am I making sense to anybody?
Yeah.
Yes, that makes
Hope
sense.
so. Cool. No jump cuts.
Okay, sorry, I don't really, I have to take the microphone off you to talk, I'm sorry. But yeah, following on from that, just completely blacked out of what I was going to say.
Sorry.
God, what were you saying? Sorry, remind me real quick.
Being treated differently because you're in a...
Yeah, sorry, yeah, what I was going to say, is that one of the problems, again, is that it's so hard to talk about because of people's perceptions. Back to the question, yes. But about people's perceptions of it is that when I talk about it, people are like, oh, God, stop searching for attention, stop using that as an excuse. And you get that a lot. And probably one of the reasons why that happens is because people do that a lot when they're younger. They blame other things on things that they can't do, like, oh, I can't go to school today, very sick, mum. So people, you kind of like just think that whenever like I say I can't, too sad, people do just think, like when I talk about it online, so much of the criticism is just that I'm playing it up, I'm hamming it up, I'm doing it for attention and stuff. And in a way, I kind of am, because it's my job and I need to make money from you listening to me about it. So I have to make it as interesting as I can. Oh, God. Rubbish.
Do you think that we're heading in the right direction with the way that mental health is perceived? Like, are you seeing improvements?
In terms of the care, I'm not seeing improvement. My group therapy ended because of funding. The government is moving towards crisis care, which is immediate care. Oh, away from the microphone, hello. You'd think being a singer I'd know that. They're moving towards crisis care and not long-term care, which is very, very worrying. Because as many of you may know in the room, there is a lot of pain in being mentally ill and suffering with various conditions. And it's not magically fixed. Many of these things, like anxiety, they're things you live with forever. You learn to live with them, and you learn coping strategies with CBT and things like that. Yes, medication can support and help many people. I've been on medication myself for a long time. My magic happy pills, as I refer to them. But I think long-term therapy, counselling or support services are needed. I don't think that 6 sessions with your GP's local counsellor is enough. I think that's disgusting. And I think there needs to be a lot more support for charities like Mind, because they are independent, and being independent means you often money you get from companies like big businesses comes with conditions. So for example, our open access, where people could come in and meet other people who suffer from conditions and interact with each other and chill out, or find a space where they can go, because many of these people are elderly, they live alone, they have no family left, or people have disowned them, or the younger versions are LGBT and they've been thrown out or whatever, so then they get various depressions and everything. So they come to the centre, and we're having to say, oh, we shut up for, whereas it used to be a whole day thing, or every day of the week, and now it's like certain days of the week. And it's very hard to turn people away and shut the door. And I think that's where the investment needs to go, into long-term care. But in terms of the question, are we heading in the right direction? I would say we're not. I think there's a long way to go, and there is a lot of pain and people carrying a lot of hurt that need to be heard. And I think today is a great day for that, because yes, we can all have a laugh and everything, and I've done many videos on mental health, and I've tried to help the community, but there are a lot of people that feel invisible in our community, in the YouTube community, and I think we need to start giving the voiceless a voice. So that's what I say.
My opinion, unfortunately, sounds a bit like it's going to say that I believe the opposite, but
That's fine.
I'm not trying to be contradictory.
No.
Certainly, I agree that we're not doing enough, and certainly you know much more about the government and how that structure works, and I agree with all of that. I think that we're headed in the right direction, though I agree we're not there. I think it's promising to see that we've got so many people turning up and being happy to talk about it, and I think that the openness that we're starting to bring to these things is very useful. Being depressed, the first question people ask me is, why are you depressed? And being able to use the saying, dementors are in the area, has made it so much easier to say, there isn't a real reason, it's just that it's going, but it's so hard to say that and explain that, whereas luckily everyone in my life understands Dementors and Harry Potter, and I can go, look, a thing's happening, I can't cast a Patronus, it's just going to be a day in Azkaban for me. And yeah, so I think that we have, and it's even things like J.K. Rowling being able to sort of mention that it was inspired by depression and things like those things. I think we are becoming better and more aware of, but I admit the knock-on effect of that being moved into help is still lacking.
Yeah.
To kind of take, I guess, a middle ground, are we stepping in the right direction? I don't really know, but all I kind of want to do as someone who could be considered an influencer is to raise awareness of these issues. So when I talk about things like mental health, I'm not just doing them for people suffering from mental health. I also want mental health issues. I'm not just doing it. Sorry, this is the weirdest panel I've ever done because no one's here to laugh, and it's just like, so I forget my points. But you know, I think it's important to raise awareness because what I'm hoping is that when all you guys, you know, basically when all the people watching my videos grow up and have kids, they then get to, from the ground up, build their kids with sympathy, empathy, and just an understanding of mental health issues. So I'm sure the system is indeed completely messed up. But at least what I'm hoping is that we can kind of ease things a bit better, one generation at a time, maybe. The very small picture. I will never probably see the world that's super good at handling that. But hopefully we can gradually do better, good things. All my answers end with me going,
Hello. For me, I've become very nervous of the depression online because if you look at Tumblr, going back 3 years ago when I was in an extremely bad way, looking on the Tumblr tag for depression itself, it just felt like there was more written posts and I could really relate to what's there now. And currently, if you were to type it in, it's the most triggering place I've ever been. And that terrifies me because although I can control myself and I don't look at it, I don't go anywhere near it, loads of people, younger people especially, are going to that tag and, oh, hello, rain. Why is it the weather changes when I'm talking? You're distracting.
You have power.
Hey. But no, I keep swapping from smiling to being serious, sorry. But it worries me for all the people out there that are looking at this sort of stuff. From a YouTube, I always go back to YouTube. From a YouTube perspective, we are YouTubers, it's good. I'm trying desperately hard to talk about some of these things, and I'm reaching lots of brick walls because, as I said earlier, I'm competing with the rain.
Holy shit. No,
welcome. This is weather
Can you actually
appropriate.
hear me? When I talk like this, can you actually hear me? Do I have to talk any louder? When I try to...
Can you just...
Keep
talking.
Stop the rain as an organizer of Summer in the City.
I think they're trying to balance the microphones to compensate, so can you keep talking?
Sorry, keep talking. When I've tried to talk about some of these topics recently, it stopped. Oh my, I
start
feel
Sandra
so
again.
distracted. This is
Start
terrible.
again, start again.
Um,
What about Tumblr?
That's rude. That's just rude.
Doom
How
will
about
get
we
us
gotta hold
all.
this together?
Oh no, wrong room for that.
I'm going to try my best. and
Worst
try and
heckle
concentrate.
ever, God.
Just go for it. Just go
Okay,
for it. Can you guys
when it
hear us
comes-
still? Yeah, just go for it.
When it comes to depression, making videos on it, I've reached two different pathways. I've got a bunch of people that are extremely supportive, and then you've got the completely other half that are extremely negative, and in some way it kind of knocks me back, and I have to really, really think about the content I'm creating and whether or not it's explaining enough what I want to say. So I've really, I don't know, hello. I hope the content I'm creating is okay. I'm going to stop talking. This rain is driving me crazy.
Okay.
Someone else take over.
I'll help you out. Oh, see, my voice carries a lot more. So
It's the bass.
you mentioned Tumblr, and I want to talk about Tumblr for a bit.
Go for it.
Because fuck. A couple of weeks ago, I deleted my Tumblr, and after being very active, very vocal, and I really had a lot of love for Tumblr, and what I thought was a community of encouraging discussion, all that. But just sadly, a few bad eggs. Just I couldn't do it anymore, and I really thought I was moving in the right direction, but I genuinely got to a point where I'm someone who I respect and appreciate the idea of triggers and trigger warnings, but I was someone who's like, that ain't me. But I suddenly realized, oh shit, no, this place is killing me, and I found a day where I realized it was making me suicidal. It was getting me to a point where I wanted to kill myself because the constant negativity from it's the place where people wanted to go to just criticize with no positivity, just say that I'm a bad person, I do bad things. And when you're in the public eye, I mean, it's hard to explain to many people, but pretty much only the people on this panel and a few other YouTubers in the crowd will understand that when you're constantly being criticized, it's very hard to believe that you're a good person when there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of people just saying you are fucking devil. And I had to get rid of it. And it's like this horrible, and I don't want to trivialize self-harm, but it's become this sort of type of self-harm for me where I'm like, when I feel a bit sad, I'm like, I'm going to go search my name on Tumblr. And the whole time I'm going, don't fucking do it, don't fucking do it. And I'll read just something and I will just go, can't do it, can't. And it's horrible. And I've got nothing to say here. I'm just so done with Tumblr as a website.
I'd like to say something as a YouTuber, and if you guys are thinking of approaching this subject, which I think we'd all like to see people talk about, a good idea if you have other content, I find, is to kind of separate it off. And in general, if you can keep comments on other sites, you can often weed out bad comments. The more hoops someone has to jump through, the more nice comments you're likely to get. And when talking about these subjects, you're looking for the nicer comments. So, I mean, we've always found that, turning off YouTube comments and forcing people over to, well, for us, it's our subreddit is something that we often do. I know Reddit isn't really always the best place to go to, but if you try and get people to do that, then you're more likely to get a positive reaction, because people who care, fortunately, are more likely to jump through hoops than people who just want to be angry.
So how do you guys, quickly, we're going to get to asking questions soon, but how do you guys approach addressing mental health issues in your videos?
I approach it just as honest and open as possible. In terms of content, I think the easiest way is to be yourself and not try and present, because if you try to present, some people can feel as though it's really phony and it's not really all there. We have someone sitting down there called David, who interviewed me last year. No, not last year. When was it? 2 years ago at Summer in the City. And it was the first time I'd addressed my mental health issues. And what's your full channel name? Come up, I can't really hear you. The Positive Mind Project. His channel is called The Positive Mind Project. And there's a lot of good stuff on there about anxiety, depression, and various mental health disorders. So it's the Positive Mind Project. And I did my interview with him, and all we did was we just sat there in Jubilee Gardens at the Sunday. Well, yeah, it was literally 2 years ago on the Sunday. And he just asked me, and we just did it there and then. And that got a really good response from people, just because they felt like they were part of the conversation, they were included. And I think that's the key to a mental health video, is inclusion. And that sort of sense of community, bringing that into it. Because if you are going to do like, you can do it, there are ways of doing it fun. There are ways of doing it fun, don't get me wrong. But I think just that real truth, bringing your truth to the camera, is key when delivering that sort of content.
Yeah, I think being very inclusive when you talk about these kind of issues, and you know, if you're a therapist, don't do this, obviously. But if like for us YouTubers, it's what we can do is we can pour out our own experiences to create a relationship with the audience. Obviously, with therapy, you actually want kind of less of a relationship with the therapist, so less of a personal. You don't really want to know about them because it does change things. But you know, the way I approach it is I want to like share my experiences and not talk in absolutes, because you know, it would be nice to package up my little videos in a little black and white, just like and then this depression's gone, woo. But it's sadly like such a grayscale. It's like 50 of them, 50 of these shades, grey, and. Yeah, so like I want
ocean or military grey?
But I want to approach the subject through comedy, and I realize that I have such an interesting relationship with my audience, and that my audience are typically just your average young, mostly male people who aren't really thinking about these issues, and I don't want to harp on too hard about them, go too hard, because what I want to do is I want to sneak attack these issues, because these are the people who aren't going to seek out this information. So I am in a very unique position where I can be like, cartoons, guns, surprise, motherfucker, we're talking about self-harm today. And that's kind of what I want to do. So I had Tumblr where I'd do all the heavy stuff, and it has already shifted kind of my audience into more people that, you know, have feelings and don't just play Halo all the time. But I do want to retain that quite shallow audience, because I want to approach it in a very, very vague, very not that conclusive way. I will leave it to other people to do stuff like that in the same way that I did my sex talk video, but ultimately I'll leave it to an expert like Lacey Green to do the real talking. But I want to just approach it very vaguely and get people thinking about it, as opposed to try and be the, you know, this wholesome messiah that, you know, can just be like so warm and cuddly and just be like, don't worry, it's all going to be okay, children. I'd rather just understand what I can and introduce the topic and hopefully just wake people up a bit. I don't know, we'll see.
I just want to pick up on something quickly. Sorry, Becca.
You don't like me talking, do you?
But no, nobody likes you talking.
We don't want the rain to get worse.
The weather doesn't like me, you don't like me, it's fantastic.
Just to pick up quickly on something you said there about experts. No one on this panel is an expert. We are all dealing with our own issues. Well, maybe not you. You seem all right. There is the biggest misconception, getting back to question one. No. You seem all right. But Gary, you're all right, old laugh. Yeah, but some of us wear masks and we're very, very clever at...
I wear horse masks.
All right.
I'm crying
but anyway,
inside
it. So none of us are experts, but just
Becky?
passing it over to Becca.
It's all right. Hello. Please, Rain. Come on, stay with me. No, for me, when I first started to slip, I had this one channel, and I used to just post everything I could practically think of, and I usually would mix everything together in these long diary videos, and I found that lots of people couldn't quite cope with me in one video changing emotions and going from 1 minute talking about Harry Potter to talking about baldness and it being the end of the world type thing. So then I started trying to do videos on happy topics. Oh, it stopped, thank you. And then videos on darker things as well. So that then happened. But more recently I found that completely cutting out mental health from all the other content that I create has worked wonders, because it means that for the people who come to my channel to watch happier things or watch me fail at cooking, then they can watch that and they can be happy. But then with my other videos, I can get some really good, strong discussions going. People can be so awesome and have these great comment threads at the bottom. But going back to the mask thing, not just with YouTube, it sounds sort of like we're backtracking a little bit when I say the next thing. I've always been this extremely open person. I've told the world how I felt, even at my darkest time. And in the last 4 months, I've stopped saying how I feel. Whenever I felt completely dark, I've just kept everything back. And I'm not in a bad way or anything, but I've really cut it out. And it's been the most strangest thing, because everyone around me is saying, oh, you're so happy, you're so bright and so wonderful. I'm like, yeah, that's me sometimes, but I still have my darkest moments. But it's been quite strange when you sort of still need to keep talking about your problems and being honest, because then people get this 360 view of you. I think I've gone on a tangent a little bit. I hope
No, you haven't.
That's all right.
No.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, go for it.
Again, I split up most of my content, so it's away from the general gist of gaming stuff and sketches, just to keep the community and the people who want to see it separate. Sometimes I do a video that's more scripted, and I sort of think about very carefully what I want to do if I'm talking about something in a general format. And that's all normally more so on a, if you've been sent to this video, it's probably because a person who is less comfortable talking to you about their feelings is having these problems, so I'm going to do my best to explain what they're going through at the moment, rather than this is a useful video. And then over the last year, I'll be honest, it was watching Becky be so nice and so emotionally raw that kind of inspired me, though I can't edit that. Like, once I capture me on film, when I rewatch it, I'm like, it's like your own trigger warning, you know? You're like, so a lot of that goes up, and I kind of swear I will never watch it. But I think that some people find that the knowing someone else is going through something at the same time as you, and that you're not alone, it's not something that I particularly gain an advantage for, but from the feedback I get, I know that lots of people appreciate that. So that's what I do.
Cool. Thank you very much. We're going to open it up to questions. Sorry, guys.
I just really want to say this is the hardest panel I've ever done, because the amount of awful jokes I'm coming up with that I'm holding back.
Thank you so much for holding them back, Tom.
Insane.
We all very
You are
much
doing a
appreciate
very
it.
good job.
Like, oh yeah, people couldn't handle my videos where I was talking about, you know, like Harry Potter, and then I'd be talking about baldness and like bad things, and I was like, that just sounds like Voldemort. And it was just like the number of terrible jokes. Like, I wanted to interrupt what? I wanted to tell the sound guys I was going to go, can we turn down for what? It's just like the bad jokes. They're everywhere.
We're going to open up to questions now. We're going to have to be really, really quick because we don't have that much time. I know it's really difficult to answer in concisely when we're talking about something like this, but if we can try and do that to get through as many questions as possible. So, girl here in the cardigan. Sorry.
I see.
You. I think a microphone's coming to you. Someone's running gracefully towards you with a microphone like a gazelle.
Look at that.
I'd like to sit because I probably won't. I'll like collapse of nerves. But had to write my question down because I might mess it up. So bear with me. I'm going to be honest. My mum had like schizoaffective disorder. I'm not sure if it's something that you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. I'm always afraid that maybe I might get it one day. Like, I've gone through my own things. She sadly left us 2 years ago, and that was in the middle of my first year of university. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've now finished, and I'm graduating in November, and my last final film I created was of her story. But by doing that, I felt like I was able to cope more. But what do you think about, do you have any advice if I wanted to create further videos, and whether maybe a YouTube channel would be a good platform for that?
Thank you for sharing that with us. Any thoughts, guys?
I mean, I think it's great to express yourself kind of any way you can. I mean, one thing I would say is the being careful, because, you know, when you do put such personal issues out there, you either have to have, or you will very quickly develop a tough skin, because people are pretty shitty sometimes. Like, I mean, like, people say that YouTube comments are the worst place in the world. They're actually not. They're actually one of the nicest websites ever, in my opinion. Like, I've been on so many bad things, but yeah, like, I think it's great that you express yourself. But, you know, even you can do things that you don't even necessarily publish online to a large audience. But yeah, I think it's absolutely great that you would do that if it gives you closure, say, or even for other reasons it raises awareness, or.
I was just going to say, or possibly on that note, you could record it when it feels right, and then wait until you feel strong enough to release it, and they don't have to be at the same time. And if that's what you need to do that. Sorry, go back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've done some really, like, I feel like I have this really bad habit where I have a panic attack and then I decide to deal with something. Like, oh, I'm feeling really bad. I'm having a panic attack. I'm going to email someone all the mean things I've ever said about them. Like, bleh. So yeah, like what he says, make it when the time is right. But yeah, maybe don't necessarily, maybe think
release
before
them
you release them, because you can make some exciting decisions. Like, I've screwed up royally. Like, whenever I pretty much posted something on Tumblr that's got me in a lot of trouble, it's been when I've been having a panic attack, because for some reason when I'm doing that, I type like nobody's business. I had the last time it happened, I think it was right around when they announced Assassin's Creed Unity. I wrote 5,000 words, most of which were never published, about gender in video gaming. Just because I was just going through a bit, and I was just like, I have to words. So yeah, I'm just rambling now. I do that. Maybe I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah. Anybody else? Or no? Another question? We get someone from this side, a blonde girl there. Yeah, just here. Thank you.
What advice would you give as for a friend comforting another friend who's going through a hard time or even depression, and a way to tell them you can't help them the way that they need help?
Okay. Well, I think the first step is to be a friend and be there. It can be very draining. None of us want to be a burden. She probably doesn't want to be a burden on you. He or she doesn't want to be a burden on you. I think the best advice you can give them is to definitely speak to their GP if they're sort of self-diagnosed or they're keeping it to themselves. Some people find it very hard to talk to their parents, so I wouldn't push that angle. I'd definitely say to her about getting special help. There is a website called Self-Help something. I'll put it on my Twitter at some point, which is very good for stuff to print off at home, and like home CBT. CBT stands for cognitive behavioural therapy. So it's about finding the things that are your triggers, finding things that may upset you or lead to panic anxiety. But I think the biggest thing to take from today is be kind to yourself. As Tom said earlier, he often went to Tumblr when he was in moment as panic or at his worst ebb. Now, I think a lot of us do that. I think a lot of us go to that sad song, that Celine Dion, All By Myself moment, and you rinse it. And sometimes we force ourselves through it. And again, as Tom said, in that moment, you need to do something. Maybe the anger or frustration with yourself or with others can make you act up or do things. The best thing you can do is be kind to your present self and be kind to your future self, because there is no point in creating a huge 5,000-word essay about something you know is going to cause you a lot of anxiety within the next 24 hours, because you don't need that, and the friend, don't need that.
I would like to say that if your friend's is in the middle of a situation, just try and talk things through with them and be very clear about what you're doing and why you're doing it and whether or not they care. And for a lot of it, it's particularly being autistic, like when people come and touch me to try and comfort me, that just adds to the problems, because I only like being touched when I'm ready for it. So although you might think that something logical like, oh, they just need a hug, sometimes just asking first can really help let them know, and talking things through with them to make sure that you're doing what they would like, as opposed to what the Wikipedia article said would be a good idea.
I find that sometimes it's not necessarily what you say, but what you can do for somebody. So it's so easy to say things that to you are supportive, like smile or be happy or think of something positive. But actually, when you're the other person who's receiving that help, it does completely the opposite. It can be irritating and aggravating. But no, I do appreciate that when you're trying to help somebody, it's so hard. But what I found is that not necessarily saying something, but just sitting next to the person and saying, I'm here for you, and if you want someone to cry, if you want to cry on my shoulder, go for it. Or if you want to write Facebook messages to me at 2 o'clock in the morning, go for it. Just even being in the next room and saying, look, if you need somewhere to go, I'm here. Because also what happens is lots of these people, they're expressing emotion over something that they're upset about. So I could be sobbing my heart out over depression, but I don't necessarily want to talk to someone about it. I just want someone who understands that I'm in a bad way and just wants to cuddle and watch ever after, that sort of thing. So yeah, not just, please don't tell people to smile. That's probably the best thing.
Things like that, like acts of kindness. Yeah, things like that, like acts of kindness. You don't have to sit there, pour your heart out and talk it out, because it can be triggering, it can be too much, it can make it really raw. But I think, like with a friend recently, she doesn't travel well, she's very anxious. So I said to her, I'll get on a bus with you and go to the local shops or whatever. And that was everything to her. She didn't have to sit on the phone with me for 5-6 hours. It was just that simple act of kindness, of just saying, being a supportive person. And as Becca says, sometimes our support can be sort of misconstrued. It can be a bit, especially when you say something like, smile, it gets better. Like, at the time, it doesn't feel like it's going to get any better. It feels like it's the end of the line. And for many people, they face that. But for you, I think being just a support and showing acts of kindness is everything.
Thank you. I think we're going to have to wrap it
no,
up.
no.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
No. Tom, speak now.
Okay.
I wasn't like texting, by the way, while you guys were answering. I was writing down my ideas because I've had such a bad habit of being like, I'm going to say oh no. So I have a few things I want to say. Yeah, like to agree with all what these guys are saying. You know, that some of the best things you can really do is listen. You can't. The truth is, you pretty much can't fix other people. You just have to listen and remind them of their options. Tell them that you will take them to get help. You will accompany them maybe to the doctors or to anything if that's what they need. But you also kind of accept that you can't help them. The only person that can make you happy or make anyone else happy is you, yourself or themselves. That you can cheer other people up, but only you can make yourself happy is kind of the sad truth. Or pills. Pills help too, for me. Sometimes, not always. But on a counterpoint, and feel free to disagree with me, guys. Here, you kind of also have to come to a point where you need to protect yourself if you have a very dark friend, because they do have somewhat of a responsibility to take care of themselves, and if they keep putting it all on you, telling you that they're gonna, telling you that they're gonna do it or they're gonna kill themselves or anything, and putting that responsibility on you, you do have a right to protect yourself and walk away. Say like, I'm sorry, I love you, but I just can't do this. I can't. It hurts me. Because sometimes there are toxic relationships. Sometimes you have to protect yourself as well.
I would say that if you're going to walk away from someone, to try and make sure that they do have the structure or something else where you can go, look, I've made sure that you've seen the doctor and that I have made options available for you, because even though I can't be there, I still want you to get better. But just so that it isn't taken too personally, though I suppose it is quite a personal thing.
It's an impossible situation. It's just that if
there
that
are
happens,
no
there is
right
no.
answers.
That's just a bad situation. But
yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
We're all sorry for mental health
so
in general.
Fucking sorry.
Thanks, guys. We're going to have to wrap up there. I just, again, wanted to point you in the direction of Mind, Anxiety UK, and the Samaritans. If you do want to talk about mental health issues with people who are possibly quite a lot more qualified than us. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and for listening, and thank you to everyone for being on the panel.
Thank you for coming. Be kind to yourselves.